You walk into Best Buy and see the most gorgeous TV you've ever laid eyes on. Colors are vibrant, the picture is crystal clear, and every detail pops like you're looking through a window into reality. You buy it, bring it home, set it up, and suddenly that same TV looks flat, dull, and disappointing. You're wondering if you got a defective unit or if the store swapped your beautiful display model for a cheaper version. Here's the truth retailers don't want you to know. You got the exact same TV, and this happens to roughly 90% of buyers. The TV didn't change, but everything around it did, and those differences make a massive impact on what you're seeing. Hit that subscribe button and tap the like icon, because this video will save you from buyer's remorse and help you get the picture quality you actually paid for. Drop a comment right now telling me which TV you're currently using and whether you're dealing with disappointing picture quality at home compared to the store, or if you've figured out how to make it look as good as the demo. Your experiences help other viewers avoid the same mistakes, and I respond to every comment personally. The store environment creates an illusion that cannot exist at home. The first massive factor creating this shocking difference between store and home performance is the lighting environment, and this alone accounts for probably half of the disappointment buyers experience. Retail stores use extremely bright overhead lighting, measuring 500 to 1000 lux, which is significantly brighter than typical home lighting that measures 50 to 200 lux. This might sound like a technical detail that doesn't matter, but the impact is dramatic and affects every single aspect of how the TV looks to your eyes. In that bright store environment, TVs need to fight against massive amounts of ambient light reflecting off the screen. To combat this, stores crank every TV to maximum settings that make the picture bright enough to cut through all that overhead lighting. The Samsung S95F OLED gets set to its brightest possible mode, the LG C5 OLED gets maxed out, and models like the TCL QM8K that can produce over 1500 nits of peak brightness get pushed to their absolute limits. In that bright showroom, this creates pictures that genuinely look stunning because the TV is successfully fighting all that ambient light and delivering colors that pop and highlights that sparkle even under those harsh conditions. But here's what happens when you bring that same TV home. Your living room doesn't have commercial-grade overhead lighting blasting down at 500 to 1000 lux. You've got lamps, maybe some recessed lighting, or natural light from windows that's much dimmer overall. Suddenly, that same TV set to maximum brightness settings looks completely different. Colors that look vibrant in the store now look oversaturated and artificial. Bright scenes that popped in the store now look harsh and uncomfortable to watch. The TV hasn't changed at all, but the viewing environment changed dramatically, and suddenly those aggressive settings that work perfectly in bright retail spaces look terrible in your dimmer home environment. The situation gets even worse when you consider glare and reflections. Store demos typically position TVs facing away from windows and major light sources. At home, your TV might sit across from a large window that streams in afternoon sunlight, or positioned where lamps create reflections on the screen. Models like the LG G5 OLED that look perfect in the controlled store environment suddenly show every reflection and glare issue when placed in real living room setups with windows and varied lighting. The Samsung S95F handles this better with its matte anti-glare coating, but even that performs differently when dealing with actual home lighting conditions versus the predictable overhead lights in retail spaces. The secret settings that make store demos look incredible. The second major factor destroying your home viewing experience is picture mode settings. And this is where retailers engage in some genuinely deceptive practices that most buyers never realize are happening. Every TV manufacturer includes multiple picture modes with names like Vivid, Dynamic, Standard, Movie, and Filmmaker. These aren't just subtle differences in brightness or color. These modes apply dramatically different processing to the image, and stores universally set every display to vivid or dynamic mode because these create the most eye-catching pictures under retail conditions. Vivid mode makes several aggressive changes to the image that look amazing in bright stores but terrible at home. First, it cranks color saturation way beyond natural levels, making reds redder, blues bluer, and greens greener than they appear in real life or in the content as the director intended. In a bright store where you're glancing at multiple TVs competing for attention, This oversaturation makes the vivid mode TV jump out as more colorful and appealing than TVS set to accurate modes. Second, vivid mode maxes out the backlight and contrast, making bright areas as bright as the panel can possibly produce. Again, this fights store lighting effectively and creates that wow factor that sells TVS. Third, vivid mode applies aggressive sharpness enhancement that artificially boosts edge detail, making the image look incredibly sharp and detailed even when the source content isn't particularly high quality. The Sony Bravia 8 II, Samsung QM8K, and Hisense U7N all look absolutely stunning in stores when set to these vivid modes. Colors explode off the screen, brightness seems incredible, and detail looks razor sharp. But when you bring these same TVS home and leave them in vivid mode, the picture looks completely wrong. Skin tones take on an unnatural orange or pink cast. Blues and sky scenes look electric and artificial. Bright scenes are so overblown they lose subtle detail. The aggressive sharpening creates halos around objects and makes the image look artificial and processed. What worked perfectly to catch your eye in Best Buy creates an uncomfortable viewing experience during an actual 2-hour movie at home. The really sneaky part is something called store mode or demo mode that many retailers enable on display TVs. Brands like Samsung and LG include this special retail mode that applies even more aggressive processing than standard vivid mode, and it automatically resets the TV to these demo settings every 30 minutes, even if someone changes them. This prevents customers in stores from accidentally switching TVS to different modes and ensures the displays always look their most eye-catching. But some retailers don't properly disable store mode when they sell the floor model or when they sell a TV that was briefly used as a display. Buyers bring home these TVS, find the picture looks way too intense, try switching to standard mode, and 30 minutes later, the TV automatically reverts back to that aggressive store mode, and they can't figure out why. You have to dig deep into service menus to completely disable store mode on some models, and most buyers never realize this is happening. The demo content deception that hides real-world performance. The third factor creating the store-to-home disappointment is the actual content playing on those demo TVS. And this might be the most deceptive aspect of the entire retail experience because what stores show bears almost no resemblance to what you'll actually watch at home. Manufacturers provide retailers with custom demo loops specifically designed to make their TVs look as impressive as possible under retail conditions. These aren't just high-quality content, they're content specifically selected and produced to show off every strength the TV has while completely avoiding any weakness. These manufacturer demo loops typically feature pristine native 4K content with extremely high bit rates, meaning the image quality is far superior to anything you'll stream from Netflix, watch on cable, or even play from most Blu-ray discs. We're talking about content at 100 megabits per second or higher compared to the 15 to 25 megabits you get from 4K streaming services. This massive difference in bitrate means the demo content has essentially zero compression artifacts, no banding and gradients, perfect motion clarity, and no noise or blocking in dark scenes. The TCL QM8K and TCL QM7K look absolutely flawless, playing these manufacturer demos because the source content has essentially perfect quality. The demo loops also focus heavily on specific types of scenes that make LCD and OLED panels look their absolute best. You'll see tons of brightly lit nature scenes with vivid flowers, blue skies, and green forests that show off color volume and peak brightness. You'll see city skylines at night that demonstrate contrast between bright lights and dark backgrounds. You'll see slow panning shots across landscapes that avoid any motion issues. What you won't see in these demos are the types of content that reveal TV weaknesses. Dark scenes with subtle shadow detail that would show black level problems. Fast sports with quick camera pans that would reveal motion processing issues. Or content with lots of near black details that would show blooming and haloing on mini LED models. When you get home and start watching real content, the difference is shocking. Your Netflix stream of the latest action movie is compressed to save bandwidth, creating noticeable artifacts in dark scenes and during fast motion. Your cable TV feed might not even be real 4K, but rather 1080p upscaled by the TV, revealing noise and softness the demo content never showed. That hockey game on ESPN shows motion judder and blur that wasn't visible in the slow panning demo shots. Suddenly, the TCL QM8K that looked pristine in the store is showing visible haloing around bright objects against dark backgrounds because you're watching actual movie content with challenging high-contrast scenes instead of the carefully curated demo material that avoided those scenarios entirely. The Hisense U7N and Samsung QM8K suffer particularly from this demo versus reality gap. In stores playing perfect demo content, their quantum dot colors look vibrant and punchy with no visible compression issues. At home streaming The Mandalorian on Disney+, you're suddenly seeing banding in space scenes, compression blocking in shadows, and motion judder during action sequences that the demo loop completely hid. The TV didn't get worse. You're just finally seeing how it performs with real-world content instead of manufacturer-curated perfect material. Why professional reviews don't match your experience. The fourth major disconnect is that professional reviews from sites like RTings test TVs under completely different conditions than both retail stores and your living room. When your experience doesn't match rave reviews of the LG C5 OLED or Samsung S95F, it's not that reviewers were wrong. They're testing under specific controlled conditions using proper calibration that neither stores nor typical homes replicate. Professional reviewers disable aggressive vivid mode and switch to movie or filmmaker mode designed for accuracy. They perform detailed calibration using expensive colorimeters and test pattern software. They test in completely dark rooms or with carefully controlled lighting. They measure contrast using scientific instruments and test with uncompressed reference content instead of compressed streaming. This creates a huge gap. The reviewer testing the Samsung S95F OLED in a pitch-black room with professional calibration and reference content sees stunning perfect blacks and incredible color accuracy, rating it 9 out of 10. You buy that same TV, set it up in your living room with a window behind the couch, leave it in default standard mode without calibration, and watch compressed Netflix. Your experience is dramatically different. That 9 out of 10 TV looks more like a 7 out of 10 in your actual environment. The situation gets more confusing with model variants retailers use for artificial exclusivity. Samsung sells the QN90D at Best Buy, but the QN90DA at Costco with slightly different specs. TCL offers the QM8K in different configurations. Reviews might cover one variant while you buy another, and those small differences create noticeable performance gaps that leave you wondering why your TV doesn't match the review. How viewing angles and room layout destroy OLED and LED performance. The fifth factor creating massive disappointment is viewing angle and how your seating position impacts picture quality in ways store demos completely hide. In stores, you stand directly in front of the TV at the optimal angle where every TV looks its absolute best with proper color accuracy, full contrast, and even brightness. At home, your couch might sit at an angle, multiple people watch from different positions, or someone sits off to the side while gaming. The LG C5 OLED maintains better off-angle color than LCD models, but still shows noticeable brightness reduction at 30 or 40 degrees off-center. Someone on the end of the couch sees a dimmer image with shifted colors compared to the center viewer. LCD models like the TCL QM8K and Hisense U7N show even more dramatic viewing angle issues. They look stunning head-on in stores, but at 30 degrees off-center at home, you'll notice color shifting, reduced contrast, and washed-out appearance. Blacks turn grayish, whites shift color. This isn't a defect, it's an inherent LCD limitation the centered store demo never revealed. The Samsung QN90D has wider viewing angle technology than older LCD models, but still can't match OLED's off-angle performance. With a wide sectional couch, different viewers get dramatically different picture quality from the same TV, creating frustration because people are literally seeing different performance levels based purely on seating position. What actually works to make your TV look like the store demo? Now that we understand the problem, let's discuss actual solutions that will transform your viewing experience. These aren't complicated or expensive fixes, just simple setting changes that optimize your TV for home viewing instead of retail demos. The single most important change is switching to movie mode, filmmaker mode, or cinema mode depending on your brand. On Samsung models like the S95F OLED and QN90D, movie mode provides accurate colors and proper black levels. On LG models like the C5 OLED and G5 OLED, use filmmaker mode. On TCL models including the QM8K, QM7K, and QM6K, select movie mode or darkroom mode. This one change eliminates the harsh, oversaturated look and delivers natural, film-like quality. Second, lower your backlight or OLED light by 20 to 30% from maximum. Stores crank this to fight retail lighting, but at home it's uncomfortably bright and crushes black detail. On the Sony Bravia 8 II, dropping from 100 to 70 improves comfort and contrast. On the Hisense U7N, reducing to 60% eliminates the blown-out look while maintaining HDR brightness. Third, disable all motion processing features like motion smoothing, true motion, or auto motion plus. These create that artificial soap opera effect that destroys cinematic quality. Turn them completely off for movies and shows. For sports, minimal processing might help, but less is usually more. Fourth, look up recommended settings for your exact TV model on RTings or review sites that publish calibrated settings. For the TCL QM8K or Samsung S95F, they provide specific numbers for color, tint, brightness, and contrast that dramatically improve accuracy in just minutes without expensive equipment. Fifth, control your room lighting. Add curtains or blinds for windows creating glare and use dimmer switches or lamps instead of harsh overhead lights. Even models like the Samsung S95F with anti-glare coating or the TCL QM8K with high brightness perform better with controlled lighting rather than direct sunlight. Sixth, use retail return policies to test the TV in your actual home environment. Most retailers offer 14 to 30-day returns. Don't just watch one evening and decide. Spend time adjusting settings, testing different content types, and viewing from various seating positions in both daytime and evening lighting before committing. Finally, understand that some disappointment might be unavoidable depending on your environment. The Sony Bravia 8 II excels in dark rooms, while the TCL QM8K excels in bright rooms. Using them in the wrong environment means you're not getting the performance you paid for, regardless of how good they looked in the store. Why this matters and what you should do before buying. The ultimate lesson here is simple. Retail demo conditions are designed to sell TVS, not show real home performance. The bright lighting, aggressive picture modes, perfect demo content, and optimal viewing angles create an illusion that won't exist in your living room. Models like the TCL QM8K with extreme brightness or the Hisense U7N with punchy colors look stunning in stores, but can seem oversaturated at home in default settings. Before buying, research professional review sites that publish actual measurements and recommended settings. Read user reviews from people using the TV at home. Buy from retailers with generous return policies and actually test the TV properly before committing. Don't trust your eyes in the store because that environment is designed to deceive you. When you bring a TV home, spend time optimizing settings before judging performance. Switch to movie mode, lower the backlight, disable motion processing, and apply calibrated settings from review sites. Test with real content you actually watch from your actual seating positions in both daytime and evening lighting. Only after proper setup can you fairly judge if the TV meets expectations. The industry has no incentive to change because oversaturated pictures sell more TVS than accurate ones. You're caught between competing interests, and the only way to avoid disappointment is understanding the gap between retail demo and home reality before you buy. Before you go, smash that like button so others can find this information before wasting money. Drop a comment telling me which TV you own and whether you experienced this disappointment or managed to get it looking as good as the demo. Subscribe for more real-world TV advice instead of marketing hype. The TV you choose will be in your living room for 5 to 7 years, so make sure you understand what you're actually getting.